What if I told you that mortgage rates haven't meaningfully dropped yet? Buyer demand is quietly picking up. Sellers are starting to list again, and the market is beginning to move in a way that we haven't seen in months. Well, friends, that's exactly what's happening right now. So if you're a buyer, a seller, or just keeping an eye on the market, this week's data matters more than you might think. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this week's Friday Real Estate Market Update. If you're new here, well, welcome. I'm Alex. And if you've been following along each week, well, thanks for coming back. Now, before we dive in, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to the channel. These weekly updates are part of an ongoing series where I break down what's happening in the real estate market right now, what it means for buyers and sellers, and how to adjust your strategy. In other words, today's video is just part of a bigger series, so stay in tune. Week after week will give you the most benefit. Well, subscribing also gives you access to other videos on this channel, buyer and seller tips, market education, and lifestyle content that goes beyond the headlines. All right, enough of that. Let's get to what's actually changing this week. Mortgage rates are hovering right around the 6 to 6.1%, which might not sound dramatic, but historically, well, this level is important. According to Housing Wire, housing demand has often strengthened when rates approach 6%. And early 2026 data suggests that relationship may finally be reappearing after years of volatility. And what's interesting is that the rates, they haven't dropped sharply. They've been stabilized, and that stability is doing two things. Well, first, it's bringing buyers back who were waiting for clarity. Second, it's easing what's known as the mortgage rate locked-in effect, where homeowners felt stuck in ultra-low loan rates and were unwilling to sell. Rates don't need to be perfect, though. They just need to stop feeling unpredictable. And right now, well, folks feel some predictability is coming back. Now, if you only look at the headlines, you might think demand is still weak. But when you look at the right data, a different story really starts to emerge, starts to present itself. Pending home sales are still slightly down year over year, but the declines, they're shrinking. In fact, weekly pending sales climbed steadily through January from just over 30,000 to more than 56,000 in a matter of weeks. Mortgage purchase applications tell a similar story. They're up 5% week over week and 18% year over year. So the $1 million question is this: why does this matter? Well, simply put, it matters because these are leading indicators. Purchase applications and pending sales usually show up in closed transactions 30 to 90 days later. In other words, this data is giving us a glimpse into what spring could look like. Buyers aren't flooding the market, but they are no longer hiding either. Here's another interesting development. For the first time in more than 2 months, new listings are up year over year. Last week, nearly 54,000 new homes hit the national market compared to about 51,000 the same time last year. Now, total active inventory is now close to 700,000 listings, which is far healthier baseline than we've seen in recent years. Months of supply sits at about 2.6 months. That's still technically seller favorable, but it's much more functional environment than the extreme shortages that we saw in 2022 through 2024. But let me be clear about this though. This isn't a oversupply. It's a normalization. And normalization is exactly what allows transactions to happen. But there are other changes happening as well. For example, one of the most important shifts right now is time. The typical home is taking 63 days to go under contract, which is the longest stretch that we've seen in about 6 years. Now, this isn't because buyers are disappearing. It's because buyer behavior, it's changed. Buyers are comparing listings carefully. They're weighing the pros and cons, and they're no longer rushing into bidding wars because they don't have to. As one Redfin agent put it, buyers are serious but picky, and sellers who truly need to move are adjusting, negotiating on price, offering repairs, and making concessions, especially when competing with new construction incentives. This is no longer a speed market like we saw during the pandemic. Instead, it's a strategy market right now. In other words, buyers are taking their time as they should. And sellers, well, they've got to be patient. Here's another interesting development recently. Despite rising inventory, pricing has remained surprisingly steady. The national median list price is around $420,000, essentially flat compared to this time last year. And about 1/3 of the listings have price reductions, which is it's normal for late January, consistent with the past couple years as well. What we're not seeing is pandemic pricing or widespread discounting. I mean, don't get me wrong, the market is still seller favorable, as I mentioned a moment ago, but it is no longer overheated. Homes that are priced correctly and presented well, they're selling. Homes that aren't, well, they tend to sit. So what does this mean if you're a buyer? This is one of the most balanced environments that we've seen in years. You have more options, you have more time, and more leverage than you've had in a very, very long time. What does this mean? That means you can negotiate not just on price, but on repairs, closing costs, and the terms that you want. But it also means strategy matters. The best homes still move quickly, while everything else becomes a negotiating opportunity. Patience is your advantage right now. And if you're a seller, the opportunity is still there, but expectations matter more than ever. Pricing correctly from day one is absolutely critical. Overpricing and quote unquote testing the market is far riskier in a slower, more analytical environment. You're also competing not just with resale homes, but with new construction offering rate buydowns and pretty good incentives. The sellers who are winning right now are flexible, they're realistic, and prepared to meet the market where it is, not where it used to be. Now, of course, the biggest variable moving forward is still mortgage rates. If rates remain at the near current levels, demand indicators like purchase applications and pending sales will be closely watched as we move forward into spring. A steady rate environment could support a healthier, more sustainable spring market. Not a frenzied market, but a functional one. And honestly, that's what the market needs right now. So here's the real takeaway this week. The market isn't exploding and it isn't collapsing. It's recalibrating. Momentum is building slowly. Choices are increasing, and success for both buyers and sellers is less about timing the market and more about understanding it. Now, of course, that's why I'm here, to help you understand what's going on so you can make a solid plan to achieve your real estate goals. And with that said, friends, well, I think this video is a wrap. As always, thanks again for tuning in. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. And if you happen to be in California looking to buy or sell, or just have questions on real estate in general, give me a ring. All my contact information is down below. Friends, that's going to wrap it up for me. I will see you next Friday for another market update.